Welcome. Today is April 3rd, 2013. We're running a Zyto health scan. And what I do is to begin opening up my Zyto 5.0. And I will go to Clients. And I can put in a new client or pull up an existing client. So I'll pull up an existing client. I'll use myself as an example here. And we're going to do a new session. So I'm going to press the New Session button. And we begin by looking at stressors. So I want to help the patient identify what may be a source of a stressor creating the symptomatology that he's currently experiencing. And so the patient is experiencing some stomach symptoms, gas, bloating, indigestion. And so we will begin by putting in things that can look at sources of stress for that. So if we click this button here, the stressor scan, and we're going to connect as we're using the hand cradle. And I like to put in the following category to look at the organs, glands, and systems. So we can see 29 categories ranging from adrenal glands to arteries and veins, central nervous system, liver, large intestine, kidneys. If I roll down the scan, I can also see small intestine here. And we're going to hit this middle bar here to shift all of these stressors over to the left side to be included for the scan. And so with the patient's hand on the cradle, we will push the next and it will begin immediately the scan. If the patient lifts a finger, I will lift my pointer finger. The light changes and it will stop running. So you can see it flickering there, and I'll put my finger back and it resumes the scan. So it does not alter the scan in any negative way, it just puts it on pause. So if that happens, the patient does not have full contact with the 5 finger plates, or their hand may be a bit too dry. So I just use a moisturizer that is a hand sanitizer that kind of cleans the hand and gives it a little bit of moisture for better conductivity. As this is using galvanic skin response to measure the stressors to the computer. It's finished the scan. The patient can take their hand off the scanner for a moment. And we see items in the red and the green. We are looking at the items in red, as these are the ones that are considered to be out of balance. So it's already pre-selected the way I set it up, so I will hit next. And now all of these that were red are also visually demonstrated outside of the circle. And so we can see things here, and there are some things that relate to the digestive system here. And so the clinician's goal is to look at the big picture of all the things and how they're related and make recommendations called balancers. So there are any number of ways we could take this approach. We could try just adjusting to strengthen the nerve tone to the area. So if we go to balancers and I click on balancer and I type in chiropractic, and I'm just going to select all 5 possibilities, move them over, and now the patient's hand will need to be on the scanner, so we click next with the hand on the cradle again. And it's scanning to see if any of these recommendations are a match to help balance the patient. And we click the ones that are in green, so I'll click either one will work. So we'll click on this guy here, chiropractic adjustments, 1 to 6 treatments. Click next. And I'll need to highlight by putting this balancer into the circuit. So I will click this area. That just became a triangle, which now means it's in the circuit. And so it's going to compare this item that can balance all these symptoms, and I'll hit this rescan out of range stressors. I click that. It's now the patient's hand needs to be back on again. It's reassessing one balancer, and that calmed down 6 items. And so we're left with hypothalamus, pancreas, heart, and lung. And so I will look at blood sugar balancing, as that could stress the hypothalamus as well as the heart and the small intestine. So I will put in a balancer for blood sugar handling, and so we can go to standard process, and Cataplex B is a great product for that, as well as Cataplex GTF, glucose tolerance factor. And now we will run these two, see if either of these two are a match. And they were not a match, so they were not in green, so I would just click next. And so we have to go back to the drawing board to see what could calm this down. So let's just go for the hypothalamus, and we'll put in an adaptogenic. And there's a bunch of products from different companies here. As I put in adaptogens, they help support the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Again, as before we click next, the patient's hand needs to be back on the cradle, and it's matching one of these suggestions. And good, we had 3 that were positive here, so we'll try this one here, Physica Energetics Adapto Code. So we'll click on here, put that into, and highlight the product to put in the circuit. Patient's hand back on the cradle to rescan out of range stressors. Very good. We just have 2 left here. And now, although all of this did calm down, this guy, hypothalamus, actually rebounded slightly here. And so with homeopathy, sometimes, since like cures like, we can have a overall effect, but the patient may feel a little bit toxic as the patient is releasing toxins and retracing. So I will stick with this basic approach here, like things simple, less is more. And I'm going to rescan with my current scenario. I'm not adding in anything more, I'm just saying let's rescan, which means let's take some time to reassess here. And it did calm down, but we still have these out of balance here. So we're looking for additional support here. And so I'm going to recommend adrenal support. And sometimes it pulls up categories that talk about the adrenals, so we can go into libraries and deselect everything and just put in product libraries, standard process, premier research, physic energetic, orthomolecular, and then it narrows it down. So we and of course we are not canine, so we won't include that. So we can check off all of these minus the canine, unless I was checking my dog, and you can check animals with this. And rescan with patient's hand on cradle. And we had a hormonal adrenal balance. So let's try this pathway here and put this in the circuit and rescan. And the goal is to get all these red dots inside the circle. And we're doing great. We just have 1 category left, and ironically it's the small intestine, which is the patient's primary symptom. Sometimes if it's very tenacious or been a problem for a while, it takes some time, again, using natural things to help heal the body. So we will just rescan with what we already have here. I like the approach, again, less is more. And we're looking to get all of them balanced. Okay, so we're not getting any budge here. So we need to support the small intestine. So small intestine is absorption. And let's consider some small intestine support. And I put in some digestive products that supports all pathways of digestion. breaking down fats, proteins, carbohydrates. And these are two nice products I've worked with in the past. And we will try this guy first. And we have a complete balance. So all of the ones that were outside the perimeter that were once red are now inside the circle and turned green. We have full balance, and it was balanced for only the ones that were selected with the triangles. So even though this guy is in the picture, it was not in the circuit. If I highlighted here, that would be the circuit, but it was not highlighted. So this means the balance came from these four categories: chiropractic adjustments, physico-energetic adaptive code, adrenal support, and digestive support. And so I will hit create report, and I can email this to the patient or my front desk to print out. So if I go to email, it already has the patient's email set in here, or you can type it in. I will click send, and since my computer is hooked up through the internet, it sends it directly to that person's email. Quite a handy feature. And that concludes another session for using Zyto 5.0 to balance out symptomatology using the home run formula, which looks at mental, emotional, structural, nutritional, and toxic environments as sources that need balancing.